Thanks so much, Geoff, for joining me today. Super excited to talk about your vision for Work for Impact and what you've gone through the last, few years running a, freelance sort of marketplace for, nonprofits and socially conscious businesses. Obviously, the world has had quite a transition to remote work. But before Work for Impact, talk a little bit about your career path and your journey before you started Work for Impact.
Thanks, Grant. It's great to be here today. I really appreciate you having me here. The interrelationship between my path for the last sort of 20 years and Work for Impact. So maybe I'll sort of rewind to there. I'm a pilot, so I flew commercially for a very long time. And through a series of events about 20 years ago, I ended up in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, the capital. And I was living in Dubai at the time, working for Emirates Airlines. Some of you might have, flown with Emirates. It's only about 4 hours from Dubai. And then I ended up in the foothills at a small orphanage in a place called Cabana. And the orphanage was designed for about 50 kids. And at the time, there was about 250 kids there. It was the height of the HIV/AIDS pandemic. And the children there were about the same age as my son, Zach, at the time. So he was 6. So I sort of related to them, sort of hung out for a few days, but really saw the challenges that these beautiful kids were having living in an institution and just facing the day-to-day challenges. But in reality, these kids in the orphanages were the lucky ones. The kids living on the streets were living daily lives you just couldn't imagine your worst nightmare. So I just started working with the orphanage. They didn't have the retroantiviral drugs back then for free before PEPFAR, what George W. Bush did in 2003. So we organised free drugs for the kids. We renovated it, we put in long-term funding, all these things. But like I said, the kids living on the street, really, really touched my heart. So it led me in 2007 to form an organisation called Beyond the Orphanage Foundation. And we had the sort of founding principles that we would look after and love every child, regardless of race, religion, physical or mental challenge, but really working with the community, working with the government, working with local organisations and family, if it was appropriate, to really raise these kids. So bring them back off the streets, reunite with family if it's appropriate, and work with them for years and years and years on whatever challenge they had. So at the end of the program, they had the chance of an independent life, and in most cases, higher education, a degree or a vocation. Hugely successful program. And today, the Beyond the Orphanage has 5 programs in Nepal and 1 in Kenya. I think about 3,000 kids have come through it. But I ran the program for a long time. I still sit on the board of the US and Australian entities. But what would happen at the end of the program is that these amazing kids that we've got brought off the street, we've worked with them for years and years and years. We've educated them in how to generate an income, how to work, how to deal in society, all those sort of things. But in the case in a lot of low-income countries, there's no work, and it's really working so many years in low-income countries. The disparity of wealth, I really think, is one of the biggest challenges of the world. We all want the same basic things, right? For our kids to have an education, to be healthy, access to healthcare, so on and so forth. But the reality is the majority of the world doesn't have that. They don't want handouts. They want to be able to work. And just because you're born in a remote part of Asia, a remote part of Africa, or a remote part of the US or Australia, wherever it is, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have equal opportunities. But like in many cases, it means that you don't have those opportunities, and those lack of opportunities can be multi-generational. You can be born in a remote part of Australia, you can be really good at writing code, but you might not have that opportunity to work for a company to write code. So what I wanted to do from the foundations of Beyond the Orphanage for all those years that I've done it, build a platform which is very ethical and transparent in everything we do, but also give equal opportunities for all. Leveraging the internet we have it now, leveraging the cloud and the technology that we have, and to launch so that if you're born in a remote part of the world, you have access to the internet, there's no reason you can't work for a US or a European company. It doesn't mean you're not really good at writing code. It means in many cases you haven't had that opportunity to learn. So how can we facilitate that? And so that's sort of the founding principles of Work for Impact, and incredibly proud of what we've achieved over the last 2 years since we've launched. Just coming up to our 2nd anniversary, which is pretty exciting.
I've had some really powerful conversations with a good friend of mine, Trinity, at Era 92, and he's in Uganda, and he sort of went down the same path as one of the children you saw in Ethiopia as a kid. He was kind of living on the streets in in Kampala in Uganda, and they had an organization that sort of brought him in and gave him a laptop, right, and changed his life. And now he has his own company that essentially does these things, right? He trains kids and people who want to learn from the slums in Uganda, brings them in, teaches them whether it's coding, design, whatever it is. They have a nonprofit attached to it. So he kind of starts at a basic level. Hey, like, what do you want to do with your life, right? Like, this laptop technology brings a world opportunity, and if you want to go down this path, we'll train you, we'll teach you. And he's changed. He's one of the most incredible people I've ever talked to. And I just say that because you're right in everything you said. Some of the most talented people, that I know now, the people that he's brought in and trained, and they do all this great work, right, for companies in Europe and America and wherever, also in companies in Africa as well. So I'm familiar with what you're talking about, and the path that people around the world can take, in the power of the internet and technology, and just the talent is everywhere, right? I mean, we just need the opportunity and the tools for creativity to then mature, right, and talent to mature over time. I just second that sentiment that you were talking about.
Yeah, I think, good on your friend. Kudos to him in Uganda. I spent a fair bit of time in Uganda. But, the most wonderful people there, but lacking that opportunity. So to give them a laptop, show them, design or coding. We've got, in one of our programs, we've got a great young man in northern Nepal, in Pokhara, and he has a disease that makes his bones very brittle. He probably spends 6 months of the year in bed with plasters on his leg. 8 years ago, I gave him a laptop, and I could really see he had the aptitude for code.
Mm-hmm.
And for any time we give the younger people laptops, we have nannying software on it. And I went to visit him, it must be 2 years back now, and he was looking really sad. He was in bed, he was like plastered leg. And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, they took my laptop off me." And I go, "Well, why did they do that?" Long story short, just through being there, incredibly smart guy, he worked out how to backdoor the nannying software and then hacked into a local network. I said, "Man, you can't do that. You just can't." But I was so proud of him. I thought, wow, this is cool. We're going to take that black hat off, put a white hat on. But just that ability. So he just sat there, he's looking at YouTube, he worked it out. So it's phenomenal what people can do once they have access, to that technology, to digital literacy. And it's global. It's sort of hugely beneficial for organizations around the globe and individuals when it's done in a clear, transparent, and ethical way. Outsourcing has been around for a long time. Opaque.
Yeah.
We've got some large US organizations that will have up to 100 folks with us, and they employ people, globally for their customer support or whatever it may be. It's hugely beneficial for them having someone in a lower income country, a lower cost base, but also working through leveraging technology, hugely beneficial for the individual. In many cases, they're earning 4 or 5 times what they would be earning through a BPO organization. That transparency in everything we do, so you know exactly who you're working with, you know exactly the fees you're paying for. So, we've found some really great uptick on what we're doing and huge interest, but it's a journey.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what the platform is, and obviously you kind of had a history, being in the emerging world and emerging economies, and talking to individuals there and seeing the talent. So what does Work for Impact do, right? What's sort of the mission and the vision?
Work for Impact, we call it an on-demand talent platform. Basically, it's a marketplace, the two sides of the marketplace. So on one side, someone needs a job filled, whatever that may be. On the other side, that we have the talent, and then we sit in the middle. We only work with for-purpose organizations. And when we say for-purpose, it's like a B corporation, not-for-profit, a social enterprise, or organizations doing good things to the world. When, as you well know, with the work that you do, when you connect passion and purpose, it's phenomenal what you can get done. There's been many studies done that you're 3-4 times more productive when you're working something you're really passionate about. So the whole sort of philosophy is connecting organizations which people are very passionate for their cause, whether it's humanity, the oceans, homeless, whatever it may be, and getting the talent to help do the actual work. And then at the same time, giving back to the greater good. So for us, we give 6% of all our revenue we have currently 9 charity partners. And then we've got a global platform program we call Pathways. So we're giving back to the greater good.
Talk about Pathways for a little bit. That was something that sort of struck me. What's that program about? And has that been since the inception of the company?
Yeah, it's been pretty well since the start. So we always had this philosophy giving back. And it's like, your friend and I went to Uganda and gave those opportunities to those young people. So we really wanted to open that up in a global scale. So what we do, we partner with Google through their career certificate program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's 6 months, training program, as you know. So that our first cohort was refugees here in Hong Kong from Yemen and from young people in Nepal. So we offer free training for up to 6 months through the Google Career Certificates. And then we work with them on how to apply for a job, how to negotiate a contract, how to turn up for an interview, all that sort of stuff.
Wow.
And it's been life-changing, Grant, for some of these people. It's just phenomenal, the talent that we've come through. People are very shy and nervous, and just really working with them, helping them educate, and then how can they work. So we've seen many cases like people earning $1.50 an hour, now earning $10, $15, $20 an hour.
Sure.
So transformational for them and their orbit. So we've had, as I said, a program here in Hong Kong, we've had a program in Nepal, one in Kenya, about to launch our second one in Brazil, and then we're going to one in the Philippines. So only small, we're limited, we invest in them. We're not a big company. So we invest ourselves, but it's been transformational for many young people.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love that, the possibilities that the other thing that sort of provides is the optionality, because I believe with the Google sort of IT certificate, you can kind of choose a little bit of what you want to get certified in, correct? Like it's not just one thing. I think you can kind of pick, what part of the Google stack that you sort of want to become, sort of an expert in, so it gives that optionality, I believe.
It does. And we sort of made a bit of a mistake when we first started. We tried to push everyone into support, like technical support. And then some people didn't really want to do technical support. They were more interested in other facets of it. So we've adapted the program, we really learn and then we adapt. But it's been hugely successful. And it's something, we'll continue to grow. And as we grow, it'll just grow in line with us.
I want to talk a little bit about, COVID and how that affected, your business, whether it be good or bad. And obviously every business had to sort of adapt in a way that they never thought they would have to, or just sort of unprecedented at a global scale. But I think the one silver lining out of it was that, remote work was really put on the top of mind of sort of everybody, and sort of the capabilities that sort of has. Did you see sort of any type of, whether it was a rush to kind of go to your platform or other platforms? I guess, if you look at online sort of marketplace for freelancers, how did that come through, the pandemic, I guess, just from your bird's eye view?
Well, we launched just already the beginning of the pandemic. So not probably the first time in history to launch a new business. But, I really believe in this concept. You can work from wherever you are and, leveraging technology. You don't have to go to the office. You don't have to be in a big city. You can be wherever you are. So I really believe that. That's how I ran Beyond the Orphanage, for 16, 17 years. And the access that you have to talent around the globe, when you have that uber flexibility with the way that you work, and we're all different. We want different things in life. And when your organization really embraces that. So sort of to answer your question, like not a great time to launch a new business.
Sure.
But what we've seen through the pandemic, it's really sort of proven what most of us knew, that, remote working is the future. Right. And how there's no perfect solution. Maybe it's one day in the office or a remote working space, or all at home, or whatever it is. It's a flexible solution. But for me, it's definitely the way forward, driving to an office, sitting in an office all day, coming back. So we're just, month by month, week by week, day by day, we're growing. People really like the idea. They like the idea that how we get back. They like the idea that we're working with purposeful talent, and that, we're very transparent. So I think big picture for us organizationally, it's been really approving the concept. Where it would have taken us a little bit longer, it sort of accelerated that process.
When you see a lot of, obviously, having a two-sided marketplace, you get to see a lot of interesting sort of data, and companies are hiring for what sort of skills, right? And what sort of freelancers on the marketplace have these sort of skills. If you were, to recommend, whether it's a young person or maybe, a person, that's been a professional and maybe wants to do a career change, what would you recommend they sort of focus on from a talent standpoint, right? Or what to learn?
I think, right now you look globally for coders or product owners, product managers, business managers, huge short supply. I was reading a study yesterday in Brazil, 60% of development jobs will go unfilled this year. So there's a huge, vacuum for developers. If you have that aptitude to see code, to write code, then I think it's a really good opportunity and really interesting, what's happening in the space. So that's probably the advice I would give someone, but not everyone wants to be a developer. What I would say is it's really important to be passionate about what you do. So more than just, the generation of income, just do what you're very passionate about, whether it's design, whether it's code, whether it's business analyst, whatever it may be. But whatever you're passionate about, live with that, and then the money will come.
The one thing that I've been really bullish on, because like you said, I mean, I think developing and developers are just, they're kind of true. They don't get enough credit for how like amazing, they really are. And I think what I've noticed the last, 2 to 3 years, I guess, is sort of this evolution in, no code platforms, meaning that, you can really do a lot of things without having to learn the code, but understanding what code does really puts you in a great place to work with all these tools that, foundationally have already been built for you. And then you can learn these platforms of how to connect all these widgets and APIs, and code together without learning how to be a developer. But there's a big opportunity there as well. I don't know if you're sort of familiar with sort of the no code sort of industry, and what that has turned into. But I always tell people learn that, right? And then they might want to dig deeper and then eventually want to learn how to actually, code.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I think it's a changing space. So, I grew up with developers and code, but it's changing, it's evolving. So yeah, I think it's really good advice for young people.
You talk about this sort of digital, divide, and I don't believe it's talent, right? It's just sort of opportunity. And when you spend some time in parts of the emerging economies around the world, is it the lack of just internet? Like, is that a simple form, the lack of high-speed internet? And maybe where are we at now from when you were, first in Ethiopia or other parts of the world to now? Has that really grown and become a lot better?
I think absolutely. With the 3G, 4G mobile networks, and in a lot of cases, in different parts of the world, 5G networks now. So wherever you are, you're pretty well connected. Access to digital assets can be challenging. So, like your friend, again, going back into Uganda, giving someone a laptop or giving someone a tablet or giving them access to it so they can actually learn that digital literacy, and then that access to the internet. It's life-changing, it's transformational. I have so many stories about people that we've supported with digital assets, and how they're earning really good livings now and living in remote parts of the world. So it's just that I think it's a combination, not only the internet and what Elon Musk is doing as well. I think we'll really open it up. The 3, 4, 5G networks, and then digital access, access to digital assets.
As you talk to companies, right, or nonprofits, I guess what is their biggest, pain point when they come to you? Are they looking for, like you said before, is it tech support? Is it, design work? Is it development work? And is it, do they want to hire one or do they want to hire a team?
We have like over 3,000 skills on the actual platform. I think we're like currently at about 31,000 freelancers.
Well,
So it's quite varied. Like we have some quite large US enterprise for purpose organizations that have global customer support through us. So we have a functionality on a platform called Teams, so you can manage quite large teams through the actual platform, in breaking it down into smaller teams, so you can have managers and account managers and your accountants and all that sort of stuff. So customer support teams, tech support for the not-for-profits. Historically, it's quite hard for them if they want to build a website or if they want to do a bit of maintenance. Going through an agency can be, as you know, it can be hugely expensive. Going through those layers of an agency, what do you want? You really want that talent, someone to fix your problem, whether it's a design problem, whether it's a coding problem, whether it's an integration of a tool. And when you can find that directly on the platform, like you can on Work for Impact, post a job, and then you'll have 20, 25 applicants within a day, find the right person, and then pay them just to do that job, but in a really clear, and transparent way. We've found it quite transformational. There's one organisation we've been dealing with recently. It's a not-for-profit in Cameroon. They work with refugees that have been displaced throughout South Africa or Southeast Africa. They couldn't really get global access for funding. It's phenomenal what they've been doing. I've been working with them a little bit just to really understand it. So through Work for Impact, they found a fundraiser in Argentina, highly experienced, but not too expensive, but $15, $16 an hour. But then through her expertise in her work, she's now got a global reach for them. So the wonderful work that they're doing in a remote part of Cameroon now is becoming recognised, and people are sort of going to donate and support them and follow them. So it's, for organisations, it's really transformational what they can do when they have access to that talent.
So say a freelancer wants to, sort of come on board? I guess what's that process? Is that, manually vetted by someone from your team? I guess what's that onboarding process for talent look like?
Yeah, everything, like every individual that joins us and every organization is vetted. So when someone joins us, we just make sure that they are who they say they are through a KYC, know your customer. We go through skill verification. They can have their skills actually verified so that all your different skills will go through a verification process, ensuring a profile is set up, ensuring that the avatar is correct. And then we go through due diligence with all organizations as well. As I said, we only work with for-purpose organizations. So we say not yet to about 2 out of 3 organizations that want to join us, which is a hard thing for a startup, right? But we really believe about working with organizations that want to have a positive impact in the world. We think there's potential in everybody in every organization, but at some point, they're just not quite there yet. So we'll work with them. But if the organization can really show the intent that they're trying to change, like some legacy organization,
sure.
And if they can really just prove to us that this is really what we want to do, and we need an expertise in sustainability or SDGs or whatever it may be, and then we'll definitely work with them.
More and more of that's coming for sure.
Mm.
From an entrepreneur point of view, when you were starting the Work for Impact platform, right? Like you had to build this. The two-sided marketplace is, it's not an easy thing to build at all, right? So like, what was your tech background like? How did you build this? Did you go to, people you knew to help you build it? Or did you hire freelancers and then eventually does Work for Impact? Like the great thing is like you have access to talent to do work for your company as well, right? Like, so how did it start and then how is it now sort of building the technology?
I don't have a tech background, which might have been a good thing to not to totally understand the complexity of something like this. And then to answer your question, so I used on-demand talent, which I've done for Beyond the Orphanage for years and years, like to do a business study, to really work out all this work, is the appetite for something like this. And then I was really lucky through Beyond the Orphanage, I had a relationship with a developer in Poland who has a software company, and he's been really the backbone of us. So all our developers are in Poland, and just the most amazing people, really driven by our purpose and our passion. And then we built it. So we designed the architecture, we built it right from scratch coming up. And now for the organization, we get a lot of talent through the actual platform.
Yeah.
We need someone to help, but it's phenomenal.
That's great. It's amazing.
And it's like we work from people from Colombia and Poland and Australia and stateside, of course, in Europe and Portugal. And it's seamless for us. It just seems really normal. We haven't had meetups due to the pandemic. We have daily stand-up. We use stand-ups for the dev team. And just by leveraging technology and with the time changes, you can really leverage that to your advantage. So you've got this 24-hour work cycle.
Right.
Everyone's working their sort of their own daylight hours, and especially for customer support. We have customer support from the Philippines, and Mexico, Europe. Everyone just works a normal day, but there's this 24-hour work cycle. So if you get sort of organized, but the talent that you have available to you globally is just phenomenal.
I want to end a little bit on the future, and I know you're young startup, young company, so there's a lot of variables that go into the day-to-day work, really, and day-to-day life of an entrepreneur and a team. So early on. But as you look over the next maybe 3 to 5 years, what does success look like for you? And maybe what are some of the goals you would like to see achieved?
It's a really, really good question. And, how do you quantify success? Is it monetary? For us, it's, how we give back to the greater good, I think, is to answer that question. We have some investors. I invested some money, and so we would like to get a return, but it's, for purpose and for profit is the biggest thing. And for me personally, when I'm dealing with the folks in the Pathways program, it gives me incredible energy. When I talk to the guy I was telling you about in Cameroon, just seeing what he's been able to achieve through using Work for Impact, seeing the people that are employed through the platform that used to earn $2 an hour working for some outsourcing company, now getting $10 an hour, and hearing their stories, I think, what we're achieving is phenomenal. So to answer your question, just really the continuous growth of Work for Impact, hopefully we'll be profitable in the next year or so. And just expanding it. We've got talent in 170 countries now. So we've got 31,000 people with us. We're about to go through quite a significant further expansion over the next sort of 12 to 24 months. And just continuing, expanding the Pathways program and offering opportunities we've offered to great companies.
Amazing, Geoff. I know you're busy. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm passionate about the subject matter. I've seen technology change a lot of people's lives. It changed my life. And so, keep up the amazing work. Best of luck for the next decade to come, my man. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.